So David, what's been your experience? I mean, I've sent you to Mozambique at the invitation of President Chissano. What did you experience in Mozambique? What do you think is the opportunity there?
Well, the striking thing that I found was similarities with what was in India, you know, with what was there in the beginning in Araku, you know, that there's dire circumstances of people with all sorts of wonderful assets in terms of land and water and no utilization. And it's basically an empowerment issue. So this is what struck me, is that the revolution, the movement of Araku is easily be replicated here in Africa, particularly and strikingly so in Mozambique, because suddenly one realizes that there's just this amazing opportunity there. All you have to do is go in there and create the possibilities for those communities to lift themselves out of these the dire circumstances in which they're in. And
yes.
Yeah.
I sent the both of you to KZN, and you know, one of the sort of highlights of what you said to me is you're asking me the question why people are poor. Why did you say that?
No, in fact, 2 points I want to make here to that question. It's a very tough question you said. And one is the fact that, to play on that question, compared to Araku, whether it is KZN or Mozambique, one thing that struck me is the per capita fertile land available to people in this continent is many folds what is available to a small farmer in India.
Absolutely.
Mozambique, each of the poorest farmer woman we met, 5 hectares, 4 hectares, 6 hectares available. We are struggling with quarter of a hectare in Araku. So it beats me that with such rich natural resources, why are they poor? This is one. So the answer is very clear, that despite the land in KZN, even in the land redistribution plan as per, we've seen black farm in KZN with 100 hectares. I mean, unthinkable in India. That person is again remaining poor. When you ask, this is only in paper or in a notion, it's like virtual land. There is no connection, there is no tilling. They're completely separated from the idea of farming itself. And we have created number of gatekeepers, which will separate them almost like firewalls, separate them from markets in a big way. In fact, here I saw the separation not even from market, from their land itself. So there are these people living with rich land deposits, not doing anything. It's shocking. And in fact, if you ask me to be very, very specific, I find Mozambique in a much better position to lead the way and inspire even KZN. KZN is going fast the India way, and it scares me. What do you say, David?
Oh, absolutely. It was a striking thing that you had this incredible infrastructure and apparent wealth in South Africa.
Oh yeah.
And then you had this it took me, when I first came here, you remember I spent
Yes.
that 1 week, 10 days here. It took me 5 days of pleading, can I please go out and see some black African farmers? And it was like, who? You know, and it wasn't any ill intent at all. It was like, oh, okay, you mean you don't want to meet the government authorities, you don't want to meet, no, I just want to meet the farmers and I want to know what their situation is. And when one did, one found that there was an utter despair. I think that
Yes.
there's more than anything else, I felt despair here, more than I felt ever in India.
So, you know, I think that's one reason why I really felt that we needed to connect farmers from Araku and India to farmers here in South Africa, Mozambique, Africa, to Brazil. I think, you know, we're seeing in the world today, you know, corporates and governments coming together, you know, the whole BRICS thing
Yes.
of the southern emerging developing powers today who are, you know, acting as a counterpoint to the developed countries of the north. But what is more important to deal with poverty and inequality, which is the root of all of the social instability in the world, is dealing with promoting livelihoods. And so, I think that that's been really remarkable, that if we can be a platform to connecting people who are active in tilling the land, then we find a sustainable solution for poverty and inequality.
I agree. Completely agree. We need to get to that stage where we have these small farmers in a position to actually feed the rest of the Western world. Because there will be so much surplus created. As you rightly pointed out, the natural resources are here. Nowhere else. Everywhere else it's been used up.
So the bottom line is that there's a great opportunity here, and I think the Nandi Foundation and our decision now to set up a Nandi Foundation as a standalone entity here in Africa could be one way in which we try and connect the dots and try and find a sustainable solution to addressing poverty and inequality, both here and in India.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's
Absolutely.
a tremendous opportunity there.
And if you look at it, Jay, a country like Mozambique, where you find 34 million hectares of cultivable land lying idle. And the only deal struck is 6 million hectares of it, nearly 25% of it by Brazil and other countries to do GM mechanized crop production with no connect with the small farmers living next door to the land. So before this all gets consumed by different models of corporatization, I think we have to race against time, get these farmers here in large numbers to become the corporates themselves in terms of large scale farming and reverse the trend and tell the other countries and companies, don't worry, we will till our land and we'll feed you.
I think that, guys, thanks very much for this interview, because in a sense we've come to a point in our history of the world where it needs a redesign of what we see as social movements, as civil society, as sustainable development. And in a sense, what you all have succeeded in doing is creating part of the model of changing the chassis of development in the world. So thank you very much and welcome to Africa.